Hello, Ishkia Page here. I have been promising people for a while now for a guide on kombucha, and my hands have been pretty bad lately, so I've dreaded, done the whole dread typing thing. Well, I'm just going to make a video. I'm just going to make a video. So anyway, okay, the deal is this. First, let me tell you what not to do, and then you eliminate it from the whole thing. Do not use plastic. Do not use any metals except for stainless steel, pure stainless steel. And so basically when you stir it, don't use utensils that are anything but like wood or stainless steel. Don't use plastic. And all of this stuff retards or kills the fermentation. Yeah, you don't want to do that. Yeah. Especially, like if you're like stirring kombucha and you put a metal spoon or a metal whatever in there, you'll see this film just suddenly just all over the place. And basically you're killing the organisms. So don't. And plastics have too many toxins in them. Even if they say they're safe, don't. So what you're going to need is at least a gallon, I use gallon, glass jar. It has to be glass. It has to be see-through glass, not plastic. And you're going to need a nut milk gauze or nut milk bag, or if you need a really cheap one that is good, go to like a Home Depot or whatever and use a paint strainer bag to go over the top, because basically all it does, all you're wanting it for is for breathing with the oxygen into the jar, but also keeping critters out and dust and stuff like that. So I just use nut milk bags and paint strainers. I know that sounds toxic, but they're not toxic. They're actually really good. And it's not like you pour the stuff through it anyway. So it's just really to let it breathe and to keep organisms out, keep stuff out. So when you start, and you're also going to need a SCOBY. Now, if you don't have if you don't want to buy a SCOBY, that's okay. You just go through a few fermentations to create one. And the first one that you create is going to be really thin. So you're going to have to do it again and a couple of times, so it's not quite so fragile and thin. And now the good thing is that you can start the SCOBY. If you're creating one yourself, you can start the SCOBY with whatever type of tea you want. Now you have to keep in mind that kombucha is a living organism, and you can't, it just like your body, it gets used to environments. So if you buy a SCOBY, that's fine. I do. I would rather buy a SCOBY than wait several fermentations before I get my kombucha, which is, this is like over a month, at least. So I would rather buy one personally, and it will come with about a cup of the tea it's been fermenting in, which is good. So what you do is if you want to buy one, it comes with, it's 99.99% of the time, it is made with black tea, which is originally how it got started. If you do not want black tea, that's fine. You can actually, I have done this myself, so I know it works. You can transition it to red tea, which is like rooibos tea, which is naturally decaffeinated. It doesn't have all those chemicals in it. It's a natural tea. It's naturally decaffeinated. So, it's really nice. So, but if you do that, you can transition by I'll tell you later how to transition it. Anyway, getting to the point of making kombucha. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to take 3 tablespoons or the equivalent of 3 tablespoons of tea, loose tea or whatever, and make tea. You know, just make tea with hot water. And I wouldn't go overboard. You don't have to have a lot of hot water to make strong tea. Use the minimum amount of hot water to make this tea and let it sit for like 30 minutes. Make sure it's really good and strong. All right. So then you strain it into the gallon glass jar and just pour it in there. And then you're going to need 1 cup of sugar or 1 cup of, you know, the equivalent of honey. I would use as natural as sugar as possible. And oh my gosh, you know, don't freak out. You know, it has to have food. It's an organism. Hey, it's an organism. It has its own natural diet, just like elephants have its natural diet. So don't freak out because sugar isn't going to be the same when it's done. It'll be broken down. All right. So it's not going to be like eating sugar. So what happens is you put the 1 cup of sugar in there while it's warm and stir it up and totally dissolve it. And then fill the rest of the container up with a little bit of room with water, cool water. And you let it get to room temperature, right? Then you put the SCOBY in, and it's 1 cup of tea that it comes with, or 1 cup of tea that you got from your last batch. Okay, always keep out 1 cup from the batch before. So you pour that in, you put the SCOBY in, and it'll float to the top. You put your little nut milk bag over the top with a rubber band or whatever you do. And what I do personally is with a permanent magic marker, you can wash it off easy. It comes right off glass. I put the date of what it would be 2 weeks from then. Some people only let their kombucha go for a week, but that's basically half and half kombucha, half sugar tea. Let it go, you know, and it can even go 3 weeks, depending on your weather. The warmer it is, the less time it will take. So 2 weeks or 3 weeks. If it's cold all the time there, then go 3 weeks. You'll get to know it. So anyway, I put the date of 2 weeks from now or whatever. And then I put it in a dark place. No, not totally dark, but just away from sunlight. But it needs to have that, you know, it needs to have some kind of light. So it doesn't have to be direct light. It doesn't even have to be bright light. I put it in the back of a open cabinet, and just don't let a whole lot of direct light hit it. That's it. It doesn't need to be in the dark. Don't put it in the dark, because there's a reason that you need to have the glass jar. So once that 2 weeks is up, you're going to have jars like this. Now this one is really old. I use it all the time, and I use this for vinegar. And it's kind of, I know it's for vinegar. So what you want to do, if you want to make vinegar, you let it go at least double the amount of time. So if you want to make vinegar, just keep going for like 4 weeks or whatever. Now this particular vinegar I always make after I do the initial fermentation. Let me back up. I just do so many things with this stuff. It's just fun. Regular kombucha, stay on track. So here we go. Okay, regular kombucha. When it's done, Get these jars out. It's done with the first fermentation. Now you need to get jars like this. I got these from Amazon. You can get them pretty much anywhere. And you need to have something that has a pressure top like this, because screw-ons the pressure will actually, I've had them bust open. It's not worth the risk. So these are glass, and it has a metal thing here, and then the stopper. They're wonderful. They're totally wonderful. Now, get those jars out, and in the bottom, depending on what you want, if you want plain kombucha, just don't do anything and start using it. But if you want to go through the second fermentation, which is only a few days, because you want it more bubbly, like, you know, I don't know, soda. I love to have, that's one thing I missed about going on Wild Fit, for example. I don't have any soft drinks anymore. I didn't have a whole lot anyway, but I miss the bubbly. I miss that. So this is how I satisfy that, because I drank, you know, mineral, you know, bubbly water, and I don't know what it is. I just love it. So anyway, if you want that with extra flavors, then what you do is before you pour it in here for about, I don't know, maybe this far, I don't measure anything. Put in, blend it up like whatever flavors. I use a lot of lemon and ginger. So I'll blend up pulp and all and everything, lemon and ginger to, you know, 1/2 inch up, because what it needs is it needs food. It needs food. So so when I make vinegar, I actually use lemon and ginger in it. I just love it. It's just amazing. So anyway, but you can use blueberries, strawberries, whatever. I don't know if I've ever tried banana though, but I have tried mango. Anyway, basically a fruit that has sugars in it, natural sugars. And then what you're going to do is you're going to fill the jar up to about right here. Do not fill it all the way up there, because it's going to get pressure and it needs a little air. Don't make the same mistake I did in the beginning. I filled it all the way up to the top, and oh my gosh, was that an explosive experience taking the top off. And that's been many years ago. I was really ignorant about it all, but I decided I was going to try and do it. And it was before the times where you had YouTube that did all that kind of stuff. But anyway, yeah, it needs room. And what you do is once you fill it up, make sure this is really clean, the stopper, and then turn it on its side and store it in a dark place for 3-4 days. If you don't want it very bubbly, and you want more of the sugars in it, then don't go that long. If you want the sugars broken down, you can't help but go bubbly more, because you need to leave it in there 3 to 4 days. And then when you go and open it, before you open it, big rule. This is a big critical rule. Put it in the refrigerator first and let it get really cold. So basically what that does is it all of that pressure that's in that bottle, when it's cooled down, it makes it not so much pressure. Okay, so let it cool down all the way before you open it, and do not shake it. And do not shake it. I'm just saying, do not shake it. And then, you know, carefully open it and never put your face down in there because, you know, science is science. Organisms are organisms. And sometimes, you know, they have a ball and you're not expecting it. And the last thing you want is a stopper being a projectile right up your nose or something, you know, so keep your head back because just in case. I've never had that happen except for that first time when I did the whole explosive thing. Oh, and by the way, I didn't cool down the kombucha before I tried to open it on top of that. And when, yeah, don't do that. And don't use screw tops because the pressure, it will not handle under the pressure. You'll come into your house one day and you'll see kombucha all over the place because the threads usually with plastic, especially with plastic tops, they just can't handle the pressure. And so there's a reason I'm trying to tell you this over and over again so you don't have these snafus and get really disheartened. So once that's done, everything's cooled off, you can open it, enjoy it, etc. And if you don't want to drink it all at once, which I typically don't, but just put the cap on it and put it back in the refrigerator. So yeah. And if a lot of people whine when I tell them is a wine, he's like, wait a minute. How do you clean those? Well, I have these little brush things, but the trick really, honestly, to keep them clean. Now these are really old and they're showing their age. I mean, glass doesn't say shiny and perfectly clear forever, but these are really old. They still work great. Who cares? You know, I don't care if it looks shiny and perfect and clear. But they were for a long time, but just, you know, the outside getting brushed by stuff, it just kind of starts getting cloudy. But the key is when you finish, you know, another thing is too, is you can always put it in another container that can, you know, that goes in the refrigerator, but it needs to be able to handle a little pressure, but it still needs to be glass. But when you're done with it, immediately fill it up with hot water and let it sit for, you know, a couple of hours and use your brush on it and soap and whatever, and you're fine. But if you let that stuff dry on it and sit there for a couple of weeks or whatever, don't expect it to be easy to clean. Hello, McFly. So it's just like, well, you know, I had somebody go, well, you know, I used this kombucha and I just set it on my counter and I forgot, you know, I just didn't clean it I said, well, how long did you let it sit? A couple weeks. Hello. So yeah, just immediately fill it up with hot water so it can, you know, if there is anything hard or dried on or whatever, it'll, you know, do that. And then there's a brush that I have that's about this big, but it will go through a bottleneck like this. And then, you know, I put it in there, swish, 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 and turn around, turn it and turn it and turn it. And it works great. So anyway, that's how you make kombucha. Now, I was going to tell you something. Oh, the transition. If you buy a SCOBY, well, I already told you that. Transition, a little more red tea as you go. With each fermentation, about 4 or 5 fermentations, it should be transitioned to red tea. I think that's it. Just be creative. This is and the second fermentation is really the fun part. I mean, I'll drink kombucha without a second fermentation, but I like the fuzzy, you know, I like the carbonation, natural carbonation. Let's put it that way. It's not like the carbonation you get, you know, in soft drinks and things like that, or stuff that's bottled. But the natural carbonation is not, you know, is just amazing with the flavors. You can make all kinds of flavors. I've used mango. I've used even savory spices with honey or, you know, whatever this bottom part here is, it needs to have sugars in it, natural sugars. I wouldn't recommend putting regular sugar in there because you don't need it. And it will be better, it's better with natural sugars. So fruits, things like that. I've used dragon fruit. I've used mangoes. I've used papaya. I've used lemon and ginger. I've used lemon and cinnamon. I've used ginger and cinnamon. I've used, you know, with honey. All kinds of stuff. Your blueberries. I've used blueberries. All kinds of stuff. It really, the sky's the limit as long as it's got natural sugars in it. So, because that is its food. That's its food. So basically you're giving it a little food for the next few days, and it's really strong. The mitochondria in it are really strong by the second fermentation. So they're really hungry. So it really breaks down all those sugars, but you get the flavors. So anyway, I hope this is helpful. I hope you guys create an amazing day and have some fun. I'd really like some feedback of what you try for your second fermentations. And I'd really love it because I love being creative in that. And, you know, you might do something I've never tried before and it'll give me something to try. So anyway, bye-bye.